What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Clint back for the Total Takedown. We're talking UFC Charlotte. You better be up bright and early because apparently these are morning fights, and I didn't find out about that until like yesterday. I tweeted it out, tried to warn everybody, let you guys know these fights are kicking off bright and early on Saturday. So if you don't know, now you know. These lines are brought to you by Superbook Sports. This is, of course, Pub Sports Radio. We're going to go back over UFC Charlotte. We're going to talk overs and unders rather than picking sides on fighters. So do me a favor, if you haven't already, please hit that like button for me. Comment your favorite total for this weekend down below, and let's get into it. First fight of the night, we've got UFC newcomer Tiara Lisboa taking on Jessica Rose Clark. That line is at a pick'em now. I got plus 100 in the pocket, so beat just a little line move. You love to hear that. But the total is set at 2.5. The over 2.5 is minus 110. The under 2.5 is plus 160. And this is a really binary fight, in my opinion. Lisboa is someone who is more than capable of finishing, whereas Jessica Rose Clark really is kind of a bully and needs to grapple people for 15 straight minutes in order to get a win. She doesn't really have that killer ability to really put people away at the UFC level. So if Lisboa is not truly UFC caliber, if she is a fraud, if she is a fake, then maybe Jessica Rose Clark can get a finish on her, but more than likely not. However, if the opposite is true, and Lisboa is UFC caliber and should be in the UFC, then she probably handles Jessica Rose Clark. Clark is coming off back-to-back first-round armbar losses. She seems to be, skidding the wrong direction, getting toward the end of her career. I like the Lisboa side of things, but rather than playing the under, I would play the inside the distance. This bit me, I think, 2 weeks ago, right in the ass, when I said one of these fighters never had the finishing upside. And of course, what do? They go out and they finish their opponent. So for the sake of the total show, I'm going to say under 2.5. I think that Lisboa is going to have such a size and strength advantage here. I do think whether it's her hitting a hip toss on Jessica Rose Clark like we've seen time and time again, or just mauling her, I think eventually she finds her way on top and then pounds out Rose Clark for a TKO victory. So I'm going to say under 2.5. But again, for the sake of the show, you guys know I need both fighters to contribute to an under before I give that out as like an actual play or anything like that. So it's hard for me to justify the plus 160 on the under 2.5, unless, of course, Lisboa's inside the distance number is somewhere in that same ballpark and we can get two fighters for the price of one. Next up, Gabe Green taking on Bryan Battle. Another 2.5 here for you. The over 2.5 is minus 165. The under 2.5 is plus 145. And similar to the last fight, it's a little binary. Gabe Green has been knocked out twice in his professional career. So that chin has been tested at the UFC level and he's held up so far, but he's been wobbled a couple times. He's been hurt really badly a couple times. He is more than capable of finishing in his own right, but he really relies on his opponents slowing down and gassing out. If they don't tire out, he ends up in dominant position, taking them down, grinding them against the fence, and it'll go over. Bryan Battle's not a gasser, so I don't see this guy gassing out and giving up a submission or something like that to Gabe Green. I think he can manage to make it go over. But if Gabe Green is in the driver's seat, I'm sorry, not Gabe Green, if Bryan Battle is in the driver's seat, then this fight is going under. Kid's a finisher. He's got submission upside. He attacks off his back. He's got those long, lanky limbs. We just saw what Kennedy Nzechukwu was able to do in his last fight because an opponent left their neck hanging out there on a takedown attempt. And then Battle has also shown off his KO power. He is big for this weight class. I kind of think Bryan Battle is going to finish this fight. So again, I'm going to say under 2.5. The justification there is going to be Gabe Green's questionable durability. The fact he's been knocked out twice before. I think it could happen again. And the fact that he is, in some circumstances, capable of finishing. I'm going to sneak away with one here. I'll say under 2.5 at plus 145. Mandy Böhm taking on Ji-yeon Kim. Over 2.5 is minus 360. That's got to be the direction this thing goes. These women are absolutely going... They're both so long, so lanky. Somebody on Twitter tweeted out that there's a stat. Women with the reach of 70 or higher are losing like 90% in the UFC or something crazy like that, which is insane because especially with the men's divisions, reach is seen as a benefit. But these big old, tall, long, lanky women are usually slow and their opponents capitalize on that. Crazy thing is, these two are fighting each other. They both fall into that category. So one of them's going to get the win and help that statistic go up just a tad here on Saturday. I don't know that I see a finish here, though. Ji-yeon Kim is tough as nails. She hangs in there. She's got knockout power in her own right, but it really takes somebody standing in front of her to provide that opportunity. That's exactly what Mandy Böhm should, maybe shouldn't, but might do. This fight is so low level, I have no idea what's going to happen. I think Mandy Böhm is physical, she is strong, she's training at Extreme Couture. Ji-yeon Kim gives up a lot of easy takedowns. I could absolutely see Mandy Böhm dragging her to the ground, taking her down, and kind of working her that way. And if she does that, we definitely have an opportunity. Honestly, we have an opportunity for a finish on both sides, but I really think this is going to be a sloppy, like, must-win. Both women with their jobs on the line, do whatever it takes. It's close, split decision. Somebody gets robbed and cries. I have no idea. I'm going to say over, but I'm never laying minus 360 in a spot like this, and I can't justify an under with these two, although they do both hit pretty hard. I wouldn't be shocked. Pete Rodriguez taking on Natan Levy, a 1.5 here. Over 1.5 is minus 130. The under 1.5 is plus 110. And I will say the over 1.5 at minus 130 for this fight, simply predicated on the fact that Natan Levy knows how to survive in his fights. He has hung on for dear life in the third round more times than I can count, works his way to a decision, and more often than not ends up getting a 29-28 and getting his hand raised. He's facing Pete Rodriguez, who's the first real, true, authentic power puncher he's faced in the UFC, but we're not exactly sure what Pete Rodriguez is yet at this point. We've seen him starch a guy, and then we saw him get fed to a true UFC contender level fighter at the 170-pound division. Will that power carry down to 155? Personally, I think it will. But does that mean he's going to knock out somebody like Levy, who's hard to track down in the first round? I mean, it might, but not necessarily. If he can't find Natan Levy early, I do think he'll have to survive some grappling, and then when Natan starts to get tired and slow down, which he does every fight, eventually Pete Rodriguez will find him. But I kind of think that'll be a second rounder, maybe even a third rounder. So I will say over 1.5. But honestly, this is definitely a sit back and take notes type of spot, because Pete Rodriguez, he could end this night very, very quickly. So be careful on that one. Douglas De Silva de Andrade taking on Cody Stamann. Total set at 2.5. The over is minus 200. The under is plus 175. And it's Cody Stamann by decision, death and taxes. That's all you're ever going to get. Like, this guy's knocked out one guy at the UFC level, and it was someone on the verge of retirement with chin issues. That's not Douglas Silva de Andrade. Now, we have seen this guy quit on the stool before, but not from somebody like Cody just taking him down and hanging on his hips for 10 minutes. Douglas is extremely dangerous. He's got a good, solid submission game. He throws big power, spinning back fists, flying knees. He is an ageless Brazilian, so he could always catch Cody, but at the same time, I think grappling will eventually dominate the day. I'm going to say over 2.5 and rely on the durability of Douglas Silva, and then Cody maybe to eat one or two big shots but keep his neck safe and get us to a 15-minute decision. I'll say over 2.5. Chase Sherman taking on Karl Williams, another 2.5 total. The over is plus 120. The under is minus 140. And this one's interesting because it's rebooked. It's no longer a short notice situation, so Karl Williams really should rinse and repeat Chase Sherman here on the ground. There's rumors floating around out there that he's going to stand and bang with him. Personally, I don't believe it. Like, you got to show me before I believe something like that is going to happen. This guy's only ever grappled for us. Why would he decide to stand and bang for no reason and give this guy Chase a chance at victory here in that spot? If he does, maybe this thing goes under. These are heavyweights. These are big old boys. If we're talking 1.5, I think we get to the second round no problem. At 2.5, it starts to make me a little bit nervous. We've seen Chase Sherman take his ball and go home. Karl Williams could make this guy quit, especially on the ground with ground and pound. Relentless mat returns, and then if it stays on the feet, Chase Sherman could chip this guy up. Like, Karl Williams may not be that great of a striker on the feet, and we have seen Chase able to actually hurt some people when they give him the opportunity on the feet. So I'll say under 2.5 at minus 140 is the way to look on that one. Court McGee taking on Matt Brown. Over 2.5 is minus 150. The under 2.5 plus 130 in this spot. And I can't touch this fight, you guys. This entire card is just so gross, top to bottom. It should be fun to watch, don't get me wrong, but it's really difficult, in my opinion, to bet on, because you've got Court McGee, who's definitely one of the most durable guys we've seen in the UFC. He's coming off getting knocked out clean cold in his last fight. Matt the Immortal Brown, a guy who's got vicious knockout power, always has. That's the last thing to go, so he's still very dangerous even at 42 years old, but he also has that death gas thing where he gets tired about 5 minutes in, and a guy like Court McGee, who never finishes anybody, suddenly might have an opportunity to get a finish on someone like Matt Brown. Does he go for it? Or does he just jab and grind his way Bilal Muhammad style for a 15-minute decision? I don't freaking know. I'm going to say over 2.5 at minus 150 because that's kind of how Court McGee wins his fights. But I wouldn't be shocked if either of these guys broke a hip and ended up getting TKO'd in this fight at some point. Alex Morono taking on Tim. The Dirty Bird means a 2.5 total here. The over 2.5 is minus 140. The under 2.5 is plus 120. And I've been so snake bitten when it comes to Alex Morono. I cannot get this fight right. I cannot get this guy's fight right. Maybe I can get this fight right. We'll see. We'll see. Come back after Saturday. We'll find out. I'm going to say under. Just because, we've seen Tim Means' durability declining over the last couple of fights. He's very dangerous himself on the feet. He's got an underrated submission game. So does Alex Morono. But the big thing is Tim gets chinned a lot. He got dropped and was on the verge of getting knocked out in his last fight. Alex Morono throws a whole lot more than his previous opponent, and he does not relent. So I do think there's going to be opportunity for both guys to land a knockout blow. Tim Means very dangerous on the feet. Morono also coming off of a knockout loss. That durability looks like it's starting to go to me just a little bit. So I could see either of these guys getting clipped by something in a scramble, even giving up a club and sub or something like that. I'll say under 2.5, plus 120. Ihor, Potieria taking on Carlos. Ulberg, a 1.5 finally to talk about here. Over 1.5 is plus 110. The under 1.5, minus 130. And if these guys stay on the feet, it's got to be that under 1.5. Ihor plays with his hands low, relies on his speed and his head movement, and we saw Shogun absolutely light this guy up in their fight. And that's an old, aging veteran. If Carlos Ulberg catches you in the same way that Shogun did, you're dead. This guy is huge. I mean, there's a reason that he was on The Bachelor Brazil or whatever it was. He's gorgeous. He's built, chiseled out of stone. That body does not come cheap. He's got power, and it's not just show muscles. This guy can absolutely take your head clean off. The thing is, I'm not entirely sure that Carlos Ulberg is the goods. We've seen him also make some bad mistakes in the cage. We've seen him tire out. We've seen him absorb damage. We've seen him slip up. And someone like Ihor is the kind of guy who's going to go out there and fight for your money. He's not necessarily going to just play Carlos Ulberg's game. He's going to make Carlos Ulberg react to different things. The way he fights is very unique. Cuts weird angles. He strikes from long outside. There's going to be chances for him to catch Carlos Ulberg. So I'm not saying it's 1,000% only an Ulberg knockout. I think Ihor is actually very live for the knockout also. So I'm going to say under 1.5. I think these guys bang it out and someone goes to sleep pretty quickly. Daniel Rodriguez taking on Garry in the next fight. A 2.5 total here. The over 2.5 is minus 150. The under 2.5 is plus 130. And I actually think we're going to see some sort of a finish in this spot. That's a little bit scary, though, because Garry has shown us that he's actually got high IQ. He can be way ahead of his opponent. He'll do whatever it takes to go ahead and get the win, which is good, especially if you're money line backing the guy. Whatever he does to win, you're happy with it. But when it comes to a total, it gets a little tricky, because can he finish? Yeah, he probably could, but will he finish? I'm not entirely certain. Daniel Rodriguez, if he hurts Garry, he'll follow up. I know he's got that killer instinct in him. I know he will look for that finish if he gets the opportunity to. So I do think that Daniel Rodriguez will put the nail in the coffin if he gets the chance. Garry, on the other hand, I would hope he figures that out. I would hope he does that, but we'll see if he actually does. I like under. I'll say the under 2.5. It's a little risky. I'm probably not betting it, but that's the way I would lean on that fight. Johnny Walker and Anthony Smith for your co-main event. This gets interesting. Total set at 1.5. Over 1.5 plus 115, under 1.5 minus 135. And Johnny Walker is kind of a money printer when it comes to the under 1.5. That's all he does. He just goes out there and he performs. He's been to a decision a couple of times. He's protected his chin a couple times and avoided damage. And he could do that here in this spot. Anthony Smith is a guy who has terrible takedown defense. He was a former 185er, now fighting up at 205, so he does have that. He's filled out, don't get me wrong. He has a huge frame, he's put some muscle on, but he does seem to just get kind of mauled by these big natural 205ers, and Johnny Walker's a guy that is huge. He could pack some muscle on and go up to heavyweight and not look out of place with the frame that he's got. So I think Johnny Walker's going to have that strength advantage, and if he feels like grappling in this fight, he can. The thing is, Anthony Smith is a decorated BJJ black belt. He can find opportunities to win this fight via finish, even if this is on the ground. So even if Johnny Walker grapples, it's not necessarily a game over, and this thing is going over 1.5. I'm going to say the under 1.5. Obviously, Johnny can nuke Anthony Smith on the feet. Johnny Walker has the worst durability in the UFC, so if anybody's ever going to catch him to knock him out, well, frankly, it could be anybody. It's not just going to be Anthony Smith. It could be anybody in this division that clips him and puts him down. So I'll say under 1.5, minus 135. That one might actually make my card. Jailton Almeida taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik here for your main event. The over is 1.5 plus 170. The under is minus 190. So they are not expecting this fight to get over that 1.5 round mark. And that's kind of been Jailton Almeida's calling card. It's not it's not if, it's when and how. So he's going to try and take Jairzinho Rozenstruik down. But Jairzinho, I'm not sure what his get-up game looks like, right? Like, does he have the defense to be able to stay safe, get taken down once, not get up for the rest of the round, starts round 2, and then comes out fresh? Potentially. Like, that's kind of the thing I've been waiting to test Jailton Almeida's chin with, is somebody who can defend the grappling situations, get back up to their feet, and see what this guy looks like in the second or the third round. I don't know if that's Jairzinho, though. This guy, there's two versions of Jairzinho. He either comes out swinging for the fences, and usually that does him well. He usually hurts people and knocks their heads off when he does that. Or he comes out slow, tentative, tries to drag the fight out, and if you do that against Jailton Almeida, I'm worried you're never going to get your opportunity, because he'll end up on top of you, and you'll be too tired to catch him if the fight gets to the second round. So I will say under 1.5. I'm not going to buck the trend or anything like that. If we had somebody different who I trusted the get-up game on, maybe we could say the over 1.5 at plus 170, but I don't think so. Not this time. And if Jairzinho knows what's good for him, he probably comes out hard. He probably comes out and starts really fast. And if he does, that's his best path to victory, is a first-round knockout anyway. That's the total takedown, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button for me if you haven't already, and make sure you come back for the Undefeated post-weigh-in show tomorrow. We're going to watch these fighters weigh in, see how they look on the scales, make any adjustments and final bets we might want to tomorrow. And hey, don't forget, Sunday's Mother's Day. Go get your mama something nice. Give her a call. If you forgot about it, this is your final warning and opportunity. Go treat your mom to something nice. Have a great day.